Welcome to another episode of Municipal Focus. My name is Kevin Tocci, and I'm proud to be here as your host for the next 30 minutes. We try to use this particular program to talk with folks when it comes to items on the municipal level, Municipal Focus. Talk about things that are going on the town level and give folks a better understanding. We've also used this show for other avenues and gone a little bit higher. We've talked about county issues, state issues. Today we're being joined by the chairwoman of the Hanson Board of Selectmen, FitzGerald Kemmett. She's no stranger to WHCA and Municipal Focus. Welcome back.
Oh, thanks, Kevin.
Good to have you here.
Good to see you.
That we would kind of do like a year-end catch-up to talk about some of the things that are going on in the great town of Hanson. I think probably the first thing I would ask you is as your board is closing out 2020 and heading into, closing out 2019 and heading into 2020, what are your thoughts on the year that we're putting behind us?
Well, at our last meeting this past Tuesday night, I thought it would be a good way for us to end the year to sort of talk about our accomplishments, because a lot of times you get kind of overwhelmed with the day-to-day and you think, am I accomplishing anything? Are we getting anything done, or are we just talking a lot and, studying things and breaking into subcommittees and that type of thing? And I really feel proud of the work that we've done this year. I've only been chair since June, but in the entire year we've done a lot of work, and since June we've really hit the pavement and done some really great things. And not just flash in the pan type of things, like things that I think are really going to set this town up for success in the future. And on the top of that list would be finding a new town administrator. And that is absolutely mission critical to the way that the town is going to operate. And then we also got an excellent executive assistant, new highway director, and we've got plans with the new highway director to implement an online reporting functionality, which Hanson hasn't had thus far, and I feel is going to really bring us further into the transparency and communicating and engaging citizens to let us know right on the spot what's happening if they see a pothole or if they see something that needs to be addressed. That will allow us to track what's going on, our response time, what types of incidents, are we seeing, trends and that type of thing. So we've been working on that. We've also sold quite a bit of the town-owned property, things that were on the rolls because of back taxes. We've cleared everything to date, and we continuously look at that. And when we first started down that road, we had quite a backlog of real estate to get rid of. So we've brought in some revenue that way. We have also, may I just look at my list, because I brought a little list, because we've had a lot of stuff. We also, we had the fireworks site. The fireworks site in Hanover is quite well along and quite well established with the DEP. Unfortunately, Hanson really was marginalized in that conversation up until this year. And I'm happy to say now we're on the monthly calls. We're getting copied on things from the DEP. We had a forum that the DEP came to and listened to constituents' concerns. So we're engaged, and we will be helping to shape what the outcome is on that property. And I'm also hoping that we're going to be able to get some grant money that's going to be made available to restore some of that property in Hanson and bring it back to as close as it was before, the fireworks site happened. So we've got that going on. We've hired a new conservation agent, a new health agent, and people may say, well, how important is that? Critical. Those are roles that are enforcement roles, and if you don't have those in place, you tend to get people that might be opportunistic, taking advantage of that chink in the armor when you don't have a health agent or a conservation agent in place. And I think you can just let your imagination roll on that one. New recreation director. And we also voted to implement regional dispatch. And that's evolutionary, but at some point we will be joining forces with Duxbury and the others that are in the ROCC. We also, this is probably, I would say, something that I'm very proud of. We got JJ's cleaned up. It took a while. It took a lot longer than it should have. but we did it at no cost to taxpayers. And that was because of the fine efforts of our building inspector, Bob Curran. He just kind of kept a steady, pace. And then we also brought in our legal counsel, and between the two of them, they were able to kind of coerce people into doing the right things. We've also issued an RFI on McQuon. And then I guess probably, and I'm just sort of summarizing, there's been a lot of things. Then the other area that we've really focused on is Main Street. And we've done a couple of things there. We've got our planner fully engaged in looking for grant opportunities and working with some of the property owners there to get mass works in and see what types of loans and grants or maybe some combination thereof might be available to them to help them move that in the right direction. What we've got there is a couple of owners who are well-intentioned, but not funded to the degree that they need to be to move it forward in a way that the public could readily acknowledge, oh, there's something really great going on there. And in fact, there is something really good going on there. They've spent a lot of time and money and effort, and they've got a vision. So we're going to try to help that along. We've also recently just completed a survey of folks in town. What do you want to see down on Main Street? What types of things are you hoping are going to be there when that all happens? And it's been designated an economic development opportunity. So we're sort of at the junction of all of these different things coalescing that I think are going to help to move that forward in the direction that I won't have to cringe every time I drive by that area. That's something I heard when I was going to run for selectman, 2.5 years ago. Almost everybody that I ran into said, what are you going to do about Main Street? So we're getting there. And so that's, I'd say in a nutshell, most of what we've accomplished, but it's been a busy year.
Do you think that people, first up, before I ask you my next question, you mentioned an acronym, RFI, on the McQuon. Folks at home who don't know what an RFI is, what is that? Request
for information. So it's really to kind of shop something out and see, is there an interest? If we decide to go, out to bid, if we want to, see if somebody's actually going to be, this sort of allows the market to tell us what they might be interested in doing there, so that when we actually do, issue a bid, people will respond. So we're kind of feeling out the community, the construction community, to see what's out there.
Do you think that the residents at home who are watching this realize how much work goes into a lot of the accomplishments the board has been able to you were able to tick off, and that you were able to not only do your research, have the conversations, make decisions? Do you think people realize how much time goes into this for you as a board?
Well, it's interesting because my husband just said to me the other day, do you know that people think you guys get paid? And I said, really?
Yeah.
So we don't get paid. And I can't really answer whether people understand or appreciate the amount of time, but I would say on average, I'm putting in 20 to 25 hours a week. And that's on a kind of a steady basis. Mm-hmm. And there are weeks when it's more and there are weeks when it's less, but on average, 20 to 25 hours, which I gladly do. I signed up to do this. And it's a passion for me, and I want to effectuate positive change. But I don't know if people really realize, because I think a lot of what I see is people focusing on the negative, and I understand that, but I really wish that they'd also focus on the positive at the same time. Certainly we're open to feedback, and we want to hear the things that people want to see improved. And it's really a matter of prioritizing and trying to figure out, okay, if we do this, how many people is that going to help, versus this one little thing that might be one or two people. And it's not to say that that's not important, but we've only got so many resources, so much money, so much time, and we have to prioritize and then reprioritize. So I don't know if people realize it. In general, I'm always a little uncertain about how engaged people are, or if people even care. A lot of times, I know we find ourselves saying, does anybody even care what we're doing? It's a very odd position to be in. And then you hear back from people negatively or positively, and then you're reminded there are people out there that care.
Let's digress back to the top of your list is the things that were done during 2019. One of them was to pick a new town administrator. What was that process like?
That was a fantastic process, and I was really proud of the board and the job that we did, and extremely, and I will be eternally grateful to Mary Marini, who is our interim town administrator, longtime executive assistant, and who had planned on retiring. She would have been retired actually already if we hadn't had some unfortunate incidents back in June that caused her to have to step in temporarily. And so what we did was we hired a company, MRI, and they did everything from posting the ad to vetting the candidates. And then we got 39 candidates that applied for that job, which was astounding.
Right.
And of course, there were some who were just tire kickers. They weren't really qualified. But of the 39, they identified 15 that they thought had the qualifications to move forward. Those people were asked to respond to a
Questionnaire?
well, sort of a questionnaire. It was like composition style questions, but
Like
they had to
essays and
write.
stuff?
Yes,
Yeah.
they had to write essays. And that helped them kind of sort through, do they have communication skills? Are they really invested, or
They
did they just
articulate the issues correctly.
or did they just fill it online on Indeed and send it off because it was easy to do and press a button? And so then from there we got 11 responses, and then they really started interviewing and really vetting more, and it got down to 3 finalists. And we spent a Saturday and we interviewed them all and made the decision that day, because the guys that we had hired from MRI said, look, you don't want to do this over a series of days because you're going to forget the first interviews. It's going to be hard to compare and contrast.
While it's fresh.
Yeah. So while it was an exhausting process, I think at the end of the day, to the person, we all felt extremely confident that not only had we made the right decision in the candidate, but that this was something that was going to really serve Hanson in good stead for years to come. And before we started that interview process, when we were just privately kind of sitting around, I said to them, guys, this is the most important decision and the most important thing that we're going to do. It's almost, I don't want to be overly dramatic, but it's similar to appointing somebody to the Supreme Court. It's almost more important than the day-to-day decisions you make, who you put in that position.
Sure.
So
why was John Stanbrook the obvious choice to be the next town administrator?
for a variety of reasons. He came without any controversy, which wasn't the case for all of our candidates that made it to the last, that were in the last 3. He came with impeccable credentials. He's been a finance director, and over again, and particularly with the school assessment situation that we're dealing with now, and other things, we've found that we really need to have somebody who's got their head in the finance game and who really can read audits and read reports and extrapolate that information and figure out what it means for us. So that was another bonus. He's also been an assistant town manager in Mansfield on a number of occasions, and but for the fact that there was a residency requirement, probably would be the town manager. And so he also grew up in Halifax, but started off his interview by telling us that one of his first jobs was at BPM, which was in Hanson, and he used to go with his dad to Hanson. And so he just, there was just a lot of synergy there. And so his skills, his personality, some of the other candidates, I don't want to specify who I'm talking about, I really got a sense they were going to tell us how it was going to be done. And versus John really was, I want to hear what you want to do. I want to hear from the community. I want to, very collaborative, gentleman. So I think we all felt that he was going to be the right candidate.
Now, along with hiring a new town administrator, you have a new executive assistant. But there's a little different twist to this hire, because this is someone, I believe that during the conversation, you want someone who is seasoned. Is that correct?
We did. We really needed somebody that was seasoned because, frankly, it's it's no lie that we've had, it's no surprise that we've had a revolving door for a town administrator. And the only thing that's gotten us through that has been the stability of our executive assistant and the versatility of our executive assistant. And it's a sad statement, but it's a true statement.
Yep.
And so we knew with Mary's departure that we had to secure that executive assistant position. And again, I really feel like it was divine intervention or something, because this woman is just amazing. Greer. She came to us, again, had been an assistant town administrator, has no interest in being in town administrator.
She has that skill set.
Yes, she's got that depth. She's been in 2 towns, long tenured. She really understands just the municipal, rules and regulations, and really with very little onboarding was able to just start making an impact. And she's not Mary. She's different than Mary.
She sounds like Mary 2.0.
She is.
But she isn't.
But she isn't. She's her own, like her own version. So I don't want her necessarily to be Mary. I want her to bring her, her skills and her voice to the table. And so it's been great to really see. And Mary is feeling extremely confident now, which she was not feeling back in June, about retiring, because she knows that we've got Greer, we've got John coming, and we've secured it. So we're good.
Talk a little bit about Mary for a moment, knowing that she is going to be retiring soon, and she deserves to retire. What has it been like having her at the helm of when you needed someone for a transition? She was able to step in the role, and she's done it a few times before, going from the executive assistant to being the interim town administrator. She's done it a few times.
Yep. And she's declined to do it a few times as well, if circumstances weren't, appropriate. Anybody that has had the pleasure of working with Mary knows that she is that type of employee that you dream about having. And I've been a manager for over 35 years. I know a good employee when I see one and when I work with one. Mary is so committed to the town that there's almost no way I can actually adequately describe to you how committed she is. A woman that's going to stay past the date she was intending to retire, that is not something that you run into, because she did not feel good about the condition she was leaving things in. In all good conscience, she didn't want to leave and have that be her final chapter. She's so competent and so versatile and very, very respected by all of the employees at Town Hall and all of the different departments. So it's been a pure joy to work with her.
Let's transition a little bit here. You had alluded to earlier in regards to the finances, especially when we're talking about school funding methods. There's been early talks with the town of Whitman. What are some of the key issues that have been discussed and that are being discussed at this point in time?
Well, it really boils down to transparency into the numbers. The one thing that Whitman and Hanson can agree upon is that if the school were a department similar to police or fire or highway, we would have 100% transparency into the way that money is being spent. Because it's a regional district, we don't have that same, engagement level. And this isn't saying anything about the schools. That I have full faith and confidence that they're doing the best they can to give us that level of of information. But it became clear to Whitman and Hanson, these stakes are increasing every year, and it's an enormous portion of our budget. And we need to know how this money's being spent. And we need to really feel like we know as much about that department as we do about the departments that are really under our, direct control. So I think the first thing that we've agreed upon and that we're discussing, and we discussed yesterday with a couple of the selectmen and Frank Lyman, is getting that audit ongoing. So starting probably mid-January, we'll have an outside auditor come and just talk to us about, various sources of funding, contracts, that type of thing, OPEB, some of the things that we really need to take a look at. And so that's one thing that's united us. And what I'm really committed to, and I think the guys in Whitman are committed to, is regardless of whether we agree on the assessment methodology, we're still two towns in a region, and we have to be collegial and we have to work with each other. And now we're at a point where it's pretty clear. Whitman for this year is going to do statutory, which is going to be Hanson's picking up a larger portion than we did last year. What we're trying to figure out is there a path forward where we might do some hybrid methodology of
per pupil,
maybe not per pupil, but
pupil compared to statutory.
Yeah. So probably it won't be per pupil, but it won't be statutory, but it might be a little of each. And we don't know what that looks like. So we're collecting other regional district agreements. We're going to look at those. We've agreed to keep the dialogue going. And we have a bit more time since we know the school committee already voted to go statutory for the May town meeting. Nothing's going to be pulled off by May. So we're just going to keep that going.
One of the things that I can recall hearing that I've heard not only last year but the year prior and the year prior, that some of the situations that school districts face, not just the Whitman-Hanson Regional School District, but many is transportation costs and special ed.
That's huge.
Right, that's huge. Now, the state legislature, and I believe the governor signed this new law which is a school education. It's $1.5 billion over 7 years. I know some of the monies are going to go towards gateway cities and the poorer communities, but how is some of this funding going to make its way into your school district? Do you feel that some of that funding is going to kind of help Whitman and Hanson? Have you been given any early indications?
We haven't really been given any early indication, but I have talked to folks in the know, and I guess I'm really jaded. Because I just find that we see time and time again that there's this big windfall or things are going to change, and it doesn't really seem to effectuate us at the bottom line at all. And so I will just take a cautious wait and see type of attitude on that. I'm cautiously optimistic. Perhaps it will help. It's certainly not going to solve all of our problems.
Any concerns heading into the new year? I'm sure you're going to be waiting to see what the governor's budget is going to look like. Yeah,
I mean, I think one of the things that I'm hearing from a lot of folks in Hanson, and we discussed it briefly on Tuesday night, is the school committee in the school district just kind of talked about what they are going to want for the next year, and so we're already struggling with that assessment piece, and they're tacking on roughly $5 million to what we currently are paying, and that is going to be a struggle to meet that. So that's probably my biggest concern heading into the new year.
Is this just kind of the art of negotiating, where the bar is being set at a certain point? Because it seems like every year, and I've watched this process every year, where there'll be early assessment numbers and the bar's high, and
fair enough. Yeah.
I see people discussing it, whether they're at town halls, whether they're on social media, going, "Oh my goodness, how are we going to be able to do this percent or that percent?" Is that all it is? It's just part of the process that you set the bar and hope that is that part of the methodology for the schools?
It certainly has historically happened that way, where that we're here at the beginning and then somehow we pull several rabbits out of the hat and we pull it over the line. Mm-hmm. I wish it wasn't that way. But perhaps, I don't know. I guess we'll see if it plays out the way that it has in the past. And I think they're doing what they feel that they need to do, which is saying this is what we want and what we need. And they've differentiated between the two in the budget. So, they're saying, like, bring back full-day kindergarten, which we know eventually is probably going to be a state mandate.
Sure.
And
unfunded or just a mandated?
Well, that's always the question, Kevin, isn't it? If history repeats itself, it will probably be unfunded. Yeah.
Knowing that we are heading into 2020, I think it's also the town's 200th anniversary?
It definitely is, yes.
Are you feeling festive for the town of Hanson?
Well, I am feeling festive for the town of Hanson. I've been on the 200th anniversary committee. We've got a fantastic chair, Audrey Flanagan. She's been doing a great job of keeping everybody honest and on track and managing projects. We've got a number of fantastic things coming up. We've got a Roaring 20s party in February. We've got an Old Homes Day sort of old picnic and field games. We've got a food truck rodeo with music coming up. We've got historic talks at the library. So we've got a lot of fantastic stuff. We have a Facebook page. If people are interested, they can go on there. We're in the process of South Shore Tech is helping us put together a brochure.
Very nice.
So we'll have that coming out and be passing that out to everybody.
And I just want to throw a little plug out there. If you haven't had a chance to get your 200th anniversary swag, you should get it. And Jim Hickey, if you're watching this right now, I'm still waiting for that call for my cranberry T-shirt. You know what we were talking about early this summer. If folks want to get involved in something like that, is there a Facebook page or is there a website?
Well, if they want to order items, they probably can't.
Or help the cause for the 200th anniversary.
Okay, well, so if they want to order items, we have a Cafe Press Hanson 200th. Okay. You can go on there. We have a pop-up store this Saturday, the 21st.
Oh, nice.
Yes, we've been doing a series of them at Thomas Mill from 9 to 12. And then if you want to help out, we've got openings. So go on the Hanson Town Hall website. You'll see employment opportunities and under there volunteer opportunities. And you can just fill out an application and more than likely you will get appointed.
Heading into 2020, this might be one of my final questions. What do you see as goals that because you and I did a show not too long ago, we talked about goals. What would you like to see, just maybe a goal or two that your board is able to set and achieve, or that you might want to discuss with your board as its chair?
Yeah, I think we're going to definitely set some of those goals with our new town administrator, because I really want to get his perspective on what he's bringing to the table.
That's going to be exciting, right? Having a new town administrator.
Yeah, it's going to be great. But I think community engagement, so figuring out how do we get those numbers up at the town meetings? Oof. How do we get those numbers up at our meetings? How do we get people to sign up for some of the openings that we've got on our various committees? And then I think we also want to do a better job of getting a message out there, and that's part of engaging, is making sure we're telling people what's going on, whether it's Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, and we're working on that. We've been working on that in the background, and I'm hopeful it will get launched shortly. So those types of things, and of course Main Street, and McQuon, getting some type of final resolution for McQuon, because that ties up senior center and library are kind of involved in that. So those are the top things at this point.
Well, I want to thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
I want to wish you the best of holidays and a great start to the new year.
Thank you. Same to you.
You got
Thanks.
it. We want to thank you for tuning into programs like this. If there's a particular topic you want to see on any of our shows, whether it's Municipal Focus or Crosstalk or Green Scene, whatever it may be, info@whca.tv is your way. And until next time, have a great day.